Hey everybody, it's Seth Jones, editor-in-chief of Golfdom magazine. It's summer 2025. It's hot out there. Today I'm talking turf with one of the absolute experts in our industry. Just to consider his experience alone, he's been an assistant superintendent in both Oklahoma and New Jersey at the beginning of his career, and then he spent a decade performing turfgrass research at Rutgers University, looking into such things as uh, mowing height, sand top dressing effects on green, PGRs, wetting agents. And for the last 6 years, he's helped superintendents across the country, first at Bayer as a field scientist, and now he's at Envu as a member of the Green Solutions team. It's my pleasure to welcome James Hempfling, PhD. James, how you doing?
Hey, doing great, Seth. Good to see you.
So it's good to see you too. My first question is, I want to talk summer. I know you were out there seeing a bunch of the Envu customers, so fill in the blank for me. The summer of 2025 has been.
Relatively quiet until now.
Okay. Explain what's going on.
Yeah, with few exceptions, I would say turf quality has been really high, uh, all the way up until mid-June across most of the U.S. and specifically the region that I focus on, which is the northeast quadrant of the U.S. Mild temperatures, ample rainfall, all these things led to again, with few exceptions, a relatively mild spring and very high turf quality.
Mhm.
And of course, we all know what happened over the last, it's June 26th right now. And the previous 3 or 4 days was a real change of pace for folks with the heat dome coming over a large portion of the eastern US.
Yeah.
I think
Watched
that
the
was
news. It was crazy.
maybe, yeah, maybe an inflection point to put a line in the sand for the summer. That unfortunately might have been an inflection point as we enter into more challenging weather.
Okay. So I've heard, the answer you just gave. I've heard similar answers. In fact, I had a guy in Florida who said that his turf is in better shape this time of year than it was in peak season last year. He felt like really, his turf's really strong.
Yeah.
Have you heard any success stories that you've been seeing out there in the field? Tell me, like, specifically. I don't know if you've been to in your travels, if you've seen anything that kind of stands out that just good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And not really an uncommon story here, but folks that get everything dialed in as early as possible in the spring, not really getting in their own way, making sure the turf has adequate fertilization, getting their irrigation systems audited and having the best coverage possible, getting all the other cultural practices in line as early as possible, really makes life easier once you get into weather like we had over the last few days. And so I've seen a variety of things, people playing catch up kind of still all the way up into June and worrying about maybe turf quality, turf cover going into the heat of summer, and other folks who were really dialed in and I think had a higher level of confidence. But in all my experience, not only this summer, but all the way up until now, and even in the research world, just spring is so important especially for cool season turf, is getting everything in line well ahead of summer stress.
Okay. MView is such a good valued partner of Golfdom, so I want to give you a chance. Either a new product or just one that's been in the stable for a long time. Anything that that your customers are especially excited about right now? I kind of want to get name brand with you for a few minutes.
Of course. Well, and just to tag right on to what I just said, it's a two-pronged approach in the spring. I focused on cultural practices, my previous answer, and the other side of that is no matter how good your cultural management program is, you're still going to have a pretty sound chemical program too, right?
Mhm.
And for cool season turf, root diseases are a really important part of this conversation. And so, I find myself talking more about root diseases than any other type of pathogen in cool season turf. And so we've got a really nice portfolio at Envu to address these scary things that lurk below the ground. And I kind of call this approach the easy button, which would be starting strong with Resilia, which is our new all-in-one root health, root protection solution. Three active ingredients, each tackling a different component of root diseases. First, you got prothioconazole, which is a potent DMI fungicide tackling the fungal root diseases like summer patch, fairy ring. And so that prothioconazole, you know that one from Densicor, which is a next generation DMI, extremely potent, but without any concern of that unwanted plant growth regulation. Really nice compatibility with all turf types. And so, second active ingredient in Resilia is propamicarb hydrochloride. You know that one from Banol, trusted Pythium specialist for many decades now, and that is in there to protect against Pythium root diseases, Pythium root rot, Pythium root dysfunction. And the third component of Resilia is fluopyran, trusted SDHI fungicide and nematicide to protect against nematodes, which we know all these root pathogens join forces to really bang up your roots. And that's why Resilia is coming at it from all these different angles to provide a total root protection solution. So you can't just apply Resilia all the time, right? You need to rotate it with something else. And here's the easy button. Resilia rotated with a tank mix of Fame or Caslon. These products contain fluoxystrobin. What's the one mode of action that Resilia doesn't have that's really important for root diseases? Strobilurin. And fluoxystrobin is arguably the best strobilurin, or among the best, and probably the most underutilized. And it's an excellent rotational partner to Resilia, tackling those difficult to control fungal diseases, and also contributing to Pythium control too. And so the other part of that tank mix with Fame would be Serrata. Now, Serrata is a product we know that a lot of folks have adopted into their programs, but maybe some folks still need to learn a little bit more about Serrata. And this is a product that came to us from the Legacy FMC portfolio. It's a Pythium specialist. In fact, Serrata has quickly become the gold standard for Pythium root rot, Pythium root dysfunction control. The active ingredient in Serrata is picarbutrazox. That's a novel mode of action, novel active ingredient for us in the turf world. And yeah, it is a complete powerhouse for Pythium root diseases. And you get Serrata and Fame in the same tank mix, and it's similar to Resilia in terms of total root protection. So if you've kind of come at your root disease protection you've been skimpy with it up until now, it's still an okay time to start that Resilia and Fame and Serrata rotation for the rest of the summer to either play catch up, get into recovery mode, or to protect against the additional root disease pressure that's forthcoming.
Okay. I feel like we do talk a lot about what's going on with the roots. And when we were sitting down at the GCSA conference and show, you know, that was a topic that we covered. But when you're meeting with superintendents, I mean, do you automatically just say, hey, you gotta, you know, it's looking good, great, but you gotta really work? How do you bring it home with those guys to know how the urgency that you have with what their roots are doing?
Yeah, it's a good question, because if the turf looks good on the surface, there's no urgency
Mm-hmm.
to take action, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an inherent challenge with root diseases. And let's take this year as a perfect example. All the way up until now, it's been very easy growing conditions, all things considered. Mild temperatures, ample rainfall. That doesn't mean that the root pathogens aren't still active, right? So the summer patch, fairy rings, the Pythium root rots, as long as the environmental conditions are conducive, they are colonizing roots. They're infesting root systems. They're causing damage to the roots that has yet to be seen above ground, because there hasn't been the abiotic component, drought stress, heat stress, to challenge those root systems additionally and reveal the damage that those fungal pathogens or nematodes or Pythium root rots have been doing up until now. And so there is a level of education, a level of understanding and acknowledgement that just because you can't see these things doesn't mean they're not active. And once you hit these critical soil temperature thresholds, for example, when these fungi or nematodes, Pythium pathogens become active in the spring, that's when you got to get on your chemical control program, because inevitably the damage for those pathogens is going to show up if your chemical program is not in line.
Okay. Okay.
And so it's a long-winded explanation, and there's nothing easy about root disease control, because in addition to choosing the right products and getting the timing right, you need to water it in as soon as possible. You know, you can get everything right up until that last step, but if you don't water them in, then your chances of having acceptable control have been lessened significantly.
Okay.
It's a lot of steps that you've got to execute on to get effective root disease control.
Okay. Okay. So this last one's a little bit esoteric, but any, beyond chemistry, beyond the technical side of what you do and your know-how, just any advice on how to get through the summers for these guys from what you see? And do you see the guys who are gripping too tight? And how any advice on how to endure the heat wave and to get through it at the end of the day and
Mhm.
know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, absolutely. A few things come to mind, a lot of different angles, right, to answer this question. Um, but you mentioned white knuckling it. And when you say that, it kind of makes me feel, it brings up like the emotional component of it, how do you personally endure it? And use your networks is maybe my first piece of advice. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone, talk to your fellow superintendents, your fellow lawn care operators, whatever it is. But superintendents focusing on golf right now. You've got local folks, you've got a network, and use it. Talk because they're going through the same thing. And you can talk each other off the ledge. You can talk each other out of doing something you shouldn't do because you feel like you need to do it. But sometimes the best thing is to do nothing. And sometimes you need somebody else to tell you that. So whether it's a fellow superintendent or, even somebody like me or your local area sales manager or distributor sales manager, pick up the phone and have the conversation. Take a deep breath. Try your best to take a little time away. I know it's impossible this time of year, but just even an hour here and there, or try to slow down. It'll give you clarity of mind and help you avoid bad decisions. And then aside from that, just keep it simple. You know, it's so easy to just add another thing into the tank when you're, for example, when you're spraying. Just make sure you're very intentional with each thing that you add to the tank and keep it as simple as possible, as focused as possible, keeping the first things first, focus on what's most important. You know, I could go on and on, but I think the name of the game is just clarity of mind and do whatever it takes to keep that clarity because it gets crazy.
Okay. Okay. Good advice. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're out house shopping and you're plenty busy, and appreciate you wiggling in some time for your friends at Golfdom today.
Yeah, absolutely, Seth. Thanks for making time.
For sure, for sure. Everybody, one more time. This is Dr. James Hempfling with the Envu Green Solution Team. I'm Seth Jones. Thanks for watching us here on Golfdom TV.